Everybody, welcome to Legacy TV and the Convo podcast. And you guys know, like, we've been going through an all-star lineup in this first 6 months, and it's been such a blessing, you know, growing up where I have to be around so many amazing martial artists. And when I kept telling you guys I used to be in the streets, really in the streets and selling CDs, I really used to do it. And I happened to run into this amazing gentleman many times over the years in the streets, and of course I already knew who he was, and you know, he's been in the game for a long time in the mixed martial arts world, one of the true OGs and pioneers of the sport here in Orange County. It's an honor today, my brother, to have Todd Medina in the house.
Thanks, I can't see. Thank you enough.
What's going on, brother?
Like, I honor you.
Thank you.
I honor you.
Thank you so much for coming here today, bro. It really means a lot to me. Like, I feel like, you know, there's so much story of MMA here in Orange County, bro. And like the roots are all here, a lot of it. So like, what better way to bring a lot of my friends and people I've known for many years on to tell a lot of it to the world? You know, we need our own spot out here.
This is just bananas how this happened from, like you say, Orange County is where it popped off. You're a Santa Ana kid, yeah?
Absolutely.
I was a Santa Ana kid. Santa Ana kid, just up the street, born and raised here. Bananas, like Tito was here.
Yeah.
There's some, yeah.
Let's start there. So were you actually born in Santa Ana?
In Santa Ana.
Oh, born and raised.
Born and raised in
Santa Ana, baby. Y'all know how much I love my city. You guys know how much I represent it. So I knew this kind of, but we want him to tell his story. So growing up in Santa Ana, you know, I know for me it was one way. I grew up in a black neighborhood area. For you, tell us, take me back, your time growing up in Santa Ana. What streets? What was it like at the time?
It was right up here on Rate, across the street from the high school. It was so crazy, and we needed to cross over at the end of the street on St. Andrew's Place. There's a bridge that goes over, but all the gangsters were there. It used to be live over there.
Yeah, a lot of Mexican gangs.
A ton. It was such a different culture back then.
Yeah.
With those guys.
You know, I was telling somebody the other day, there's still, of course, a lot of gangs, but Santa Ana has changed a lot since, you know, our younger days. Back in our time, Santa Ana, there was, you know, a lot of Mexican gangs. You could damn near go down, you know,
everywhere,
any street, and there's a neighborhood. And
everywhere.
It was very saturated with Mexican gangs and lots of violence as well.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, out of Orange County, probably one of the worst crime cities that we have.
For real, you used to get street cred. I mean, from Santa Ana, like, it was bananas. But like, you couldn't go anywhere. Like you say, there's gangs everywhere.
Yeah.
Shootings. I remember up Bristol that there's a 7-Eleven up there had the most killings for, you know, at anywhere in the state, let alone whatever. It's probably more in the country. But there was like people getting whacked there all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Bristol Street.
Remember?
They used to be cruising. I remember I had been shot at on Bristol on a cruising night on a Sunday.
Yeah, a cruising night. A cruising night.
It was crazy.
I believe.
Those days, you go down Bristol and you see all the low riders and all the gang members, and they would be bumping their music and they're driving down the street and bald heads, and it's a lot different now.
All of it.
These kids all have hair now, the gang members, you know, which I'm not used to, but I'm like, okay, like, it's a
different look.
It's a different world. Yeah. Okay. So growing up in Santa Ana, seeing that, did you have friends that were involved in it? Did you see yourself kind of getting drug into that?
Yeah, well, my biological dad, that side of the family, which I really don't know and I wasn't raised with, I didn't really know them, but they were like hardcore gangsters. As I was growing up, I went from Santa Ana to like Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, but there would be like retired sheriffs and be like, hey, just by the way I look, because I look like my biological father, like, hey, I know who you are, like just get all up in my Cheerios. I'm like, hey, I don't even know my dad. So like, you know, they would just come down hard on me. So that was a hassle. That's something I had to navigate through for quite a while. But my aunt and uncle actually raised me in Santa Ana, some white people. And so they like put the brakes on all that kind of stuff. But you still, like, you didn't have a choice in the matter of living down here getting in scraps. I mean, you would just get it.
Right.
So I was, hindsight now, look, you know, what we do, I'm so grateful for that. You know, at the time it was like not cool, but like, We used to get in some scraps here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a lot different now. But growing up in schools, you know, and your friends, there was, you know, the hip hop was popular, and the gangs were what people wanted to be a part of, and drugs and all that, and it was very, very heavy out here. So you said your aunt and your uncle were raising you. Was there a particular reason, if you don't mind me asking, that you weren't with your parents?
Yeah, well, I did know my pops, but my mom raised me, and so that was like hard times, single mom at times. So I spent a lot of time with my aunt and uncle here in Santa Ana, which was cool because they were chill. They were like married couple. I had 2 cousins. It was like a regular family, a normal family.
Right.
I'm like, this is okay. They weren't in gangs. They were like they used to race motocross. So I used to go with them. So the times I got to come live with them in Santa Ana, it was like more of a family structure. It was pretty cool.
There you go. That's
but like, I mean, you couldn't go down the street. You couldn't go anywhere back at that time. I mean, what, 80s, mid 80s, early 80s or whatever, without getting it. And like you said, there was guns, there was a ton of drugs, all the stuff. All the stuff.
It was a lot more poverty here, and you know, but that has changed. So, growing up with your aunt and your uncle, were you doing any sports at the time? Growing up, were you good in school? Were you doing, you know, what you needed to do in school?
Yeah, I just got by. School for sure wasn't my thing.
Kind of, yeah. I did nothing in school, like but my son, I feel like he's kind of he's on that just getting by. Shout out to my son, but go ahead. So you like elementary, any sports?
Nah, not so much because like even though I was stayed with my aunt and uncle a lot, we moved. I moved like before I was 16, 18 different times or whatever. So I was in this state, that state, and then the cat my mom was mostly hanging out with was always running from the cops. So from a very young age, I learned how to like move from the cops. I'd be sitting in class and like at noon I'd be getting picked up, and I knew I was getting picked up because we were going out of state. So just because I was a good kid back then, I'd give anybody static. They passed me through school. I have no idea how. And because we were always running from the cops, they were able to change my last name in school. And it was like at such a young age. I'm like, how's that even possible? I could pick that up at the thing, but like, it was so weird. And then just like being the new kid, like I would get in fights, not starting them, but just getting them.
Yeah, because you're constantly, you don't have a group of friends that you grew up around that hang out together. So you're that new kid, and you're constantly. I know what that's like because that's what happens with new kids. You move around, you become the new kid. You got no friends in the beginning, so that you end up being bullied. I think a lot of kids get bullied, particularly because of that reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So moving around and all these different places, no sports whatsoever.
Nah.
None.
Not till like high school, junior high. We ended up in Huntington, and I got on the surf team.
Surf? You just start with surf?
Well, I don't even know how that happened. go from being competitive surfing to, in the NHB no rules thing, but moving around all the time, getting in those fights, always moving, it always helped because like in the fight game, we were moving from or going to this state, that country, this country, all these different spots. But I was so used to just grabbing a bag and going, it really helped fast forward in the fight game.
Yeah, of course. So okay, so you start surfing. So tell me, after high school gets out, like what leads you into to martial arts?
There was I started lifting weights at Gold's Gym, and back then, did you know Rich Alvarez?
Sounds familiar.
Okay, so I don't say all, but all, like you asked, like all the locals from Huntington knew Rich Alvarez. He was a wrestling coach at Huntington forever. Big old Mexican, like 320, just jacked, big dude. But he used to be a wrestling coach, like had all these accolades with wrestling. So at the gym, I met that guy, and then we just clicked. You
met him at Gold's lifting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. His son went to my school, a little bit younger, but his son went to my school. But he took me under his wing. I don't know why. He's like, come on, you're going to work with me. And he used to bounce downtown Huntington when it was good. But I'm a 16-year-old skinny kid that surfed. He goes, I'm going to show you what's up. And then I'm like, what? I'm a 16-year-old kid working at this bar, kicking people out. And they'd say no, and it just turned into be a big old fight. So that was more violence and more fights.
Had he taught you anything like martial arts wise, or he just
I mean, not but wrestling.
Wrestling, okay.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so from fighting in the street as a kid, and now I got this big old jack Mexican showing me how to wrestle, and I'm like, I shouldn't even be in this place. I'm like, okay, let's just roll with it. So like the bars up there used to get down.
Did you like wrestling in the beginning when you started? Wrestling so fun,
so good.
I loved it.
It's addictive, yeah.
Dude, I'll tell you, I've said it once on the show before. I'll tell you a funny story. I wanted to wrestle. I played nose guard and center. I was starting, and I was gonna be wrestling. I even like put some kid in a submission without knowing what a submission was in the wrestling.
Amen.
But by the time it came around to do the first competition, and they brought out that singlet, I told the coach, I said, "Oh, I gotta wear that." He said, "Yeah, I'll be right back." I was out of there, bro. And I was a little bit thicker back then. And I was like, I'm not wearing that, But I love wrestling. So you meet this guy just randomly at Gold's Gym, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna take you. I'm gonna show you what's up." And he starts teaching you how to wrestle.
Yeah.
Do you remember at the time, like what was he kind of teaching you? Was it just like a basics, like singles, doubles?
Yeah, singles, doubles, and a lot of it was applied in the bars
to control them there.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, it was just bananas. But yeah, heavy doubles. Here's a kind of funny story. He kicks this one guy out way too rough for what it should have been. So the guy came back in with a metal, say a steel post like this, and they were having words. And I saw it in this guy's hands, and he was going to come up and crack him in the head with it. And I just so happened to tie him up, and then Rich got so angry with the guy, and he took it too far to begin with. But when they ran him out the front door, there was a coin thing to pay for parking. Man, he had him by the back of the head and just ran his face into that thing. I felt so bad for that guy. I just broke it up. So again, all I'm doing is like very violent wrestling. Like it was all contact. And he was just teaching me this stuff. I'm like, okay, I guess this is how this is worked. We're going down with it. But yeah.
That was kind of your intro to martial arts, though, right
for
there.
Real.
Because I believe, and I'm sure everyone else now also believes, that wrestling is one of the most important martial arts.
Hey.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at that time, no martial arts. You start doing these wrestling. You start doing security. You start getting into these little fights. You've already kind of been fighting as a kid growing up in Santa Ana, which is just normal out in Santa Ana. Then what leads you into MMA? Is it start with MMA, or does it start with jiu-jitsu, or what's the first experience with mixed martial arts?
I'm at college. Somebody gives me a VHS tape of how old I am of UFC 1. It was like 2 weeks old. He's like, you got to watch this. I think you're going to be good for this. Because at the time I was still lifting weights. I was probably like 260, 280 maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I seen some pictures of you back in the day, bro. You were jacked.
I was just, man, I wish I could get some of those back. Yeah. But yeah, somebody gives me this tape. He's like, watch this. I think you'd be good at this. I went home that night, plugged it in, and the next day I quit school. I'm like, I'm done. This is what I'm going to do. My mom about lost her mind.
Damn.
But I knew.
You knew that fast right away?
Yeah. I go, you can put two guys in. You can go in a cage. And there was no rules, and do whatever you want to do. So because with my mom, it was very violent with the guys who used to beat her up and stuff. Just growing up, I was around a lot of violence. I knew violence very well. Like, very well. So I'm like, wow, you can do whatever you want in this thing and get paid for it. And like I said, the next day I quit school. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do.
Wow.
I was like, what? It was just so easy.
You were inspired. Yeah. You were motivated and inspired by something you see. I think a lot of people have moments in their life like that, where they see something. It might even be for the first time, or they might see it again, and it changes the whole path of their life. So that was that moment for you. That moment. So you decide right then and there that I'm gonna start going to do MMA. What's the next step?
Oh, you remember back? It's not like it is now.
No, not at all.
You can drive. You can walk. There's places everywhere. And we had to drive. It was like, I can't remember. Oh goodness. So anyway, there's JKD, Bruce Lee's martial art. I just so happened to befriend somebody who's an instructor in that. So, and JKD is another violent martial art. Knees, elbows, headbutts. It's good. You could almost say it's really good for self-defense, but it's not self-defense. It's just beating somebody up. That's all it is. So I started training with him, and then Ken Gabrielson, love that guy. He introduced me to Kenny because Kenny was a full instructor in JKD, and he was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So right place at the right time. So we started training. And then
who was he a black belt under?
Helson
Gracie.
Helson Gracie.
Yeah, that's actually one of my coach Joe's.
Joe, man, I love that guy.
Yeah,
I love Joe.
Yeah, Helson Gracie, legend.
Yeah.
So Joe as well.
Yeah.
So you start. So he had kind of the package there for you.
Yeah. So we clicked. He's a firefighter, fire captain. Like I've just always clicked with the fire department guys. Super good guys. Took me in and right from the gate, as soon as I saw it, like I told him, I'm like, I want to do the UFC. And he's like, well, okay, I don't know how we're going to work that out, but let's get it. Because Hoist was in it. They were still doing 8-man tournaments. I think that was only like still at the second UFC they had just done. So they weren't letting anybody else who knew jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's early.
Yeah.
You wanted to get in there right away.
Man, I saw the UFC 1, and it was 2 weeks after that. When I saw it, it was that new.
No fear, nothing.
I was just running at it.
You just wanted it.
Running at it.
So your goal initially is right off the bat is like, I want to do this as a career. I want to fight in the UFC. You've seen the UFC, and now you've got a coach, and now you're telling the coach, look, I want to fight in this organization. So what's the process next? Because
there was no internet, no cell phones, yellow pages, but you couldn't look up UFC in the yellow pages. I wasn't like that. So it took me a minute. And then I found the UFC office up. It was by Hoist's in Torrance.
Right.
Brick building. So I get the number. I call, talk to Art Davey, set up a meeting with him. And it was crazy. I walked in there, and it was like out of a movie, a Clint Eastwood movie or something, because he's got this big wood desk, and it's kind of dark in there. And he's got a 45 sitting on the desk. I'm all, what is this? And he just, I need to ask him that question.
He's probably being careful.
Yeah, because the guys that came through there, I could only imagine.
Yeah. I understand it. When it's PTSD sometimes for some people. When you've been in traumatic situations, it's like you might not hurt anybody, but you just feel more comfortable having, something to protect you there.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do as well. Okay, so you walk into the room. He looks like the mafia dude sitting at the desk with the strap.
And he's a smaller guy. But anyway, we hit it off, and it was super good. He liked my credentials. He liked what I'd done. I didn't have any of this facial stuff. But he goes, real quick though. He goes, but you're way too polite. You're not gonna fit in the UFC. Because I'm always yes sir, no sir, this and that or whatever. He goes, it's not gonna work. So do me a favor and grow some facial hair and let's do this. Because for sure at that time I was probably like 270. He goes, we need that look. We need the bigness, but just the polite thing's got to go. And I was like, I'm all yes sir. And he goes, that's not what I want to hear. I'm like, okay. So we worked on it. So I grew this, and that's how that thing came out. Now, at that time, it was like UFC 3. And because initially when I was looking, I asked Joe-san, because he was at the time a local down in Huntington.
Right.
And he was in the movies and all this and that. I'm like, hey, Joe, how do you get into this UFC thing? He's like, nah, Todd, you don't get in it because, they'll kill you in there. It's very dangerous. And for about a half hour, I resonated with that. I'm like, okay, if Joe says, it's bad, then
it's bad.
I'll leave it. And then a half hour passed. I'm like, oh, heck that. I'm going to get it. So obviously, I got in. But Joe, that put a fire under Joe, and he tried to get in it at the same time. So Art's like, hey, do you two want to fight like at Hoist's gym, and whoever wins will get in the UFC? I'm like, cool.
Oh, wow.
And for whatever reason, that didn't happen. But obviously, Chemo got UFC 3. And I don't remember the
shout out Chemo.
Yeah, love that guy.
Shout out Chemo, my brother. Like that's family for me.
Yeah.
He's one of Joe's black belts, and
yeah, for real.
OG. Did you have a relationship with Chemo at the time?
Yeah, him and I were good. We did a lot of security gigs, and he played a very pivotal. He was a very pivotal person of me coming back into Christianity.
Wow.
We used to have Bible studies downtown Huntington Beach, and it was crazy because there was only a handful of actual guys who fought or guys who wanted to fight, and strippers. You walk into these townhomes, and it's just nothing but strippers and fighters. It was crazy.
Oh man, that sounds like a good time.
It was bananas.
Those were the early days, though.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And you guys were probably all real popular too, you know, and you were in Orange County.
It was
The
crazy.
Mecca.
Yeah. I mean, like it's hard to wrap your head around it, but Orange County was like you couldn't. Maybe even still to this day, I don't even know. But right, like everybody, it was here.
Yeah, it was.
The fight
Like
game
you
was
had
here.
Tito, you had everybody. Like you had world champions out of here. So you know, we had a buzz here, and people wanted to come train here. And I feel like that those early days are why, like you see now, like look at Orange County now. I was telling Joe the other day, like if I remember when I was a white belt, blue belt, like there was not that many schools out here. This is insane now. There's all the best fighters in the world live around here now.
Yeah.
A lot of them at least, or at least come out here to train, you know. So amazing what this small area has done for mixed martial arts. Yeah. Isn't it crazy when you think about it? So you start you fight in the UFC. Before you get in the UFC, had you had any fights outside of the UFC?
Yeah, like I fought. Maybe we'll touch on this in a minute, but I fought in Mexico, and I hear people now like, "Oh, I fought back in Mexico, bro." That, like most of them are not. They're talking out the side of their neck. Like we were back there when, and now I'm like, dude, because I've been with those guys like 25, 30 years. Guys who are trying to promoting that they're with the commission down there. So like I've known these guys forever. But yeah, at that time I think I had 5 fights. So yeah, it was.
And that time they weren't really keeping record correctly, right? And like, you know, the sport was new, and yeah, so it was like, those were the heydays. And you fought in the UFC, and take me through your training, like through this time, like who were your sparring partners? Who was your head coaches? Like how do you put the camps together for you getting ready? Who, you know, take us through that time.
It was gangster. We like Joe Moreira had like the first legitimate nice Brazilian jiu-jitsu school. That place was sweet.
Talking about Newport Beach area?
Yeah. Joe had it. Yeah, Joe is an original. Joe's
True
OG.
Yeah.
Joe is OG.
Shout out to my coach.
For real. But Kenny Gabrielson, he had a 2-car garage, and it was matted out. We trained in there. And then we would box in the street. And I remember the first time, maybe it was like the day or the day after, Art Davey called me and said, "Okay, you're in the UFC." So we had a gentleman that had been locked up in Mexico prison for a while. Business owner, had money and all this and that. And I don't know the particulars about it, but he was a pro boxer. And so that was my first sparring partner back in the day. So we're in the street and like, okay, let's see. And man, that guy busted my nose up like within the first 30 seconds, put it over here underneath my eye. Blood was everywhere. But he was legit. But I had like, John Lober.
I remember
there. That guy's bananas. But Pat Miletich rolled through there. There were some names that rolled through there.
Pat Miletich is legend for sure.
Right?
For sure. Hall of Famer, UFC legend. Like, if he's not in the Hall of Fame, he better be. He should be. And not only was he a great fighter, but a lot of champions came from his hands, bro. A lot of them. Yeah. Like the Matt Hughes era and Tim Sylvia and Jens Pulver. He had a lot of good fighters. Jeremy Stevens was, I believe, was one of his original guys too, who's still fighting to this day. Okay. Yeah, man. It's a good group. So you started having some real training partners.
Yeah.
In those early days of MMA, was it obvious, like for you, like that you had to get good at everything? Like, even though you might have been good at wrestling, did you realize? Because I know, like these days, and I've seen that you coach a lot of boxing.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people start with, you know, wrestling or, you know, other martial arts, judo, and then they end up, you know, picking up the other things, which is the striking. Do you feel like back then you realized, like, oh, I need to be good at everything? Or were you just like, I'm going to be the best wrestler and be at this style? Or what was your opinion of MMA back then?
My thought process was, because the Brazilians, and there was only a handful of schools here, they weren't teaching American fighters the real deal or teaching them at all. I mean, it was a privilege to have somebody to teach you real Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
Like the real thing.
Joe was one of them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Joe's OG.
Yeah.
Joe Moreira is OG. So that was the thing for me. Like, if you knew that, because they would bring a lot of stand-up guys or kung fu or whatever. I mean, they were bringing everybody in, but if you had the heads up on jiu-jitsu, you were good.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get my weight down. Initially, when I first started, I was roughly around 3, and then it came down to 280, 270. I was just trying to get it down because they wanted me at like 260. I'm like, okay. But that was my thought process. Get good at jiu-jitsu, because like I had big numbers in the gym. Being that strong and knowing jiu-jitsu, I was okay.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was kind of the get down. And it paid off. Like from that UFC 5, my first fight, Japan picked me up because I was different looking. I was big. They liked that big. That's why chemo did so well over there.
Right.
Or a lot of reasons why chemo did so well over there. Shout out to chemo.
Shout out chemo for sure. He has told me he's very proud of his little brother, and he's going to come on the show soon, which I think will be amazing because nobody's heard from him on this type of stuff for years. So hopefully we'll try to make it happen. Yeah. But keep going.
Yeah. So that was the thing. Just get good at jiu-jitsu and run that whole thing, and then from that UFC, like not too much longer, Japan picked me up, and I was going over there every 6 weeks, which was really cool because the Lions Den, Ken Shamrock, and all those guys. I wasn't on that team, but I was still a representative of USA. So it was good. I mean, going to get paid,
And going out there, would you train? Who would you train with them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Probably half and half, but I did. I trained with Kenny and the guys. And Ken was super cool because right after that, Ken's like, hey, you can move up to the Lions Den and live with us. And like, you can stay at the camp and all this and that. I think he wanted like half of your pay. But he would foot the bill for everything. Yeah.
Wow.
That was the last thing at the thing. I'm like, I got a kid. I go, this half thing I can't do, Kenny.
That's a lot. But I mean, damn, if that's a lot.
Yeah.
You want me to part with half my check? Like, okay, I don't know about that. That's tough. So, your career, I know you had some wins and losses in the beginning.
Amen.
Which is part of MMA.
Hey.
We look, for those of us that know, for those of that are in the sport, that train the sport, we understand like, the real all have lost. There's no way around it almost. You finished off your career on a tear.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
I believe you had, I'm not sure if it was 7 or 8 wins in a row, but you had you had your losses, you had your wins, but finishing up your career, you went like literally, I think, on a 6-fight win streak. Yeah, you went on a 6-fight win streak, all kinds of different submissions, knockouts. What ultimate, as you're getting close to the end of your career, are you already starting to coach and do that? Did you already get into that field? Because I'm sure people, cause especially the early times, people were looking for coaches to, because MMA was small at that time, right? When you were competing. So around when do you start coaching?
Maybe 2000. I had a gym in Newport. And I just started training out of my garage.
Was it one on 17th?
17th.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah.
I remember that. I used to drive by that one. It was in the corner, right?
In the corner.
Yeah.
I had a cage up in that thing, and just to get live over there. It was good because other schools came down. I always had good guys. Yeah. Always had good guys.
I'd heard some stories like through the grapevine. There'd be some fights over there.
Yeah.
At your school. I believe your original name was Todd Medina Fight School.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You guys were really over there fighting.
Just getting it. Like that was training, is just fighting.
Do you think, like, when you look back, like, on your training and how much MMA's evolved and like the training and the knowledge that's out there now, like, do you look at the way you train now to the way training should be done is like
so different? I just left right now from doing a seminar. I just left. I rolled up right now. And these guys are asking me all these questions and everything. And I'm like, my whole game has changed completely. I got to keep you guys some longevity in the sport if that's what you want to do. Right. I'm like, oh no, how about this and this? I'm like, we could do that. If that's what you want to, go over, we'll go over, but I'll give you some longevity and, how things work. And, it's changed through the years.
Right. Yeah. I remember in Joe's gym, MMA was like we try to knock each other out.
Yeah.
Forget the fight. The fight was there. Like you wanted to be the man in the gym, which is kind of crazy to think about. But like with anything, with time, everything evolves and gets better.
Yeah.
Are you kind of proud of what MMA has become and where it's gone to?
Yeah, I mean, it's good because these guys they're still not making near what they should.
Right. That's for sure.
Anybody has to go to work on Monday after
on
fighting.
You're 100% right. They especially the UFC fighters, the best of the best, they do not get paid enough.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I heard I think Bobby Green was talking about it. I heard he fights in the UFC. He's one of the top guys right now, and he was saying that look at these top boxers. They don't have to fight a bunch of times to make a lot of money. They can fight once or twice, and they're just millions and millions of dollars. And it's crazy to see a sport where you have to be good at so many different things to compete, to be at the top of the sport, which I don't think people understand how much hard work it is to be a professional mixed martial artist at the level that it is today. No way they get paid enough. I mean, you got the outliers, the Conor McGregors and the Israel Adesanyas and those guys that are, outspoken. But other than that, who's making the money like that?
Not so much.
No. So fighting in Japan, is that where you kind of finished off your career?
Yeah, Eastern Bloc Europe, Russia, Romania.
Oh yeah. You became a champion in Russia, correct?
Yeah. That belt's the only one here in the States. That M1 belt.
Wow.
Fedor's belt. Yeah.
What made you start fighting for them?
I just so happened to be in really good fight shape, and I got a call one day, them thinking because it was like 2 weeks or a week before the fight, if I wanted to fight for the heavyweight title. And I'm like, let's go. But, you call somebody last minute, normally you're like, okay, that's a B side of the card.
Right.
So they just didn't know
that you were ready.
I was about it right then. I got off the plane, they were like, oh man. So that worked out in my behalf. So I was able to go over there. I had to put that guy away 3 times in one fight.
For them to give you
give me that belt. And then it was like that place was so mob ran. I got my belt and I bounced. Yeah. I thought that was going to get ugly quick.
But you did it. You became a champion, and in Fedor's in M1. That's a big organization.
The only belt here in the state.
That at that time, did you feel like, okay, I've done what I wanted to do with MMA? How do you feel like when you look back on your mixed martial arts career? What's on your mind? Were you happy with it? Would you want to, I could have gone a little bit more. What's your immediate thoughts?
Yeah, I would have switched some things, especially after that fight. Like I just took fights I shouldn't have or whatever. Like you got a big title right there. You can sit on it for a minute and let offers come in or do whatever. But I just wanted to fight so much.
Right.
It didn't matter. I'm like, you want to fight tomorrow? Yeah, I'll fight tomorrow. For money you shouldn't be fighting for. But I did it just because I just wanted to fight.
You love what you do.
Yeah.
And
get it.
More important is to be able to play than to sit on the sideline.
Yeah.
I understand 100%.
Yeah.
So what makes you became a champion, you were coaching, you love MMA. What makes you finally decide, like, was it a decision, like that was my last fight when you had your last fight, or you just finished the last fight and just nature took its course and you didn't compete again after?
Yeah, it just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah. You didn't retire officially.
Yeah.
Well, what? So the fighting's over, but you already had transitioned during your fight career into being a coach.
Yeah.
And out of curiosity, because I know I love being a coach, was that when you started becoming a coach, did that kind of overtake wanting to be a fighter? And I'd rather be a coach than be a fighter.
That's so time consuming. Yeah. Like to train a coach.
Yeah.
Can't be done.
You can't do
not
both.
Effectively.
Right.
Yeah, not effectively.
Right. You have to be selfish as a fighter, and it requires a lot of training and to be able to put your all into someone else or to more than it's a lot of work.
All the guys.
So the coaching immediately takes precedent over that, and you're Your final look back at your career. Your favorite fight is there one that you look back and you say that was the best me? That was like my prime fight. I felt great in that fight. Is there a fight that you look back on like that? That was my favorite fight.
Now maybe the M1, but when I went to fight Vanderlei, like I couldn't have been in any better shape. Like I was in stupid shape, but I got food poisoning the day of the fight. Oof. And that because I wanted that fight so bad.
Vanderlei, when you fought Vanderlei was an absolute animal back in his heyday, and he's had a hell of a career too.
Right.
Respect to him. Yeah, I mean that was a big fight at the time.
Yeah, Japan put that together. All that was all good until that happened. I got food poisoning, and at that I shouldn't have taken the fight.
Right,
I got food poisoning, and this is a big fight. Don't fight. Come back.
Yeah, but you guys don't have that mindset.
Like, I'm just throwing up. Let's go.
You guys don't know. You old school guys, like you guys, were about it.
Bro, it's death before dishonor.
Yeah,
let's go.
Like I understand that. The scene in Orange County, like in those days, did you get to, as you opened up your school, did you get to train a lot of fighters that fought in the UFC as well?
Yeah, I got a lot of fighters coming from Japan, Brazil, Russia. They used to send me a ton of guys from out of the country. Like to me, that was cool. That was cool. They were sending me guys like left and right.
Any really big names that you've worked with over the years, like after your fighting career?
I mean, there was
tons of them.
Yeah, I mean, big names from everywhere just kept coming.
Right.
And then it started a little bit in the boxing. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then COVID came and it jacked my whole program up. So then I just started like training successful business guys.
Yeah,
which was okay,
Yeah, it really messed up a lot of people's businesses. I saw a lot of people lose their, their lives behind COVID. And their gym. Never mind just the gyms. There was a lot of people lost a lot of things during COVID. It was a crazy time.
Yeah,
I remember when I first heard, I shut my gym down for I think like a month, and then I heard people, because people were like, don't you think you should close down too, coach? I'm like, I started feeling bad. Like, oh, I don't want to be the one that causes someone, because we didn't know what was going on.
For real.
So, yeah, after about a month, I start hearing like, oh, guys are, blacking out their windows and they're training.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, well, if I sit around for the next, however long this takes, I might lose my guys that I have now.
For real.
And like, those are, your students are, when you're a coach, that's your livelihood. That's how you live. So yeah, that was a really tough situation. But yeah, we sat like a month and then we were right back in the gym. And thank God, nobody got sick or died or anything around us. Did you guys, when that happened to you, how long did you stay closed, just out of curiosity?
I was in the process of, it was weird how it happened. I shut down a school to open up a bigger one. So I was in that limbo space. So I just kind of didn't open up the big one.
Oh, okay, there you
go. Oh, what? So, but then I just started picking up these successful business guys and stuff that wanted to train. I was traveling, training these guys. I'm like, well, this isn't so bad.
Doing privates and stuff.
Yeah, all the stuff. They were about it.
Yeah.
So like my gym's closed and everybody wanted to box. And that's probably why I started picking up boxing more.
Right.
Is from COVID.
Because people didn't want to grapple.
Yeah. It's box.
I remember like in our gym, like we wanted to train so bad, like we had to have masks on for a little while. We rolled with masks on for a couple days. Like,
I believe
this is not it.
I believe.
But yeah, you got to do what you got to do, and if you love something that much, like it's hard to stay away from it. So you wait till after, and then you open up the big gym. And what was the big gym's name?
Well, I never opened up the big one.
Okay,
that COVID popped right before I was in the process of opening it. So I bought like ring, cage, mats, bag. I bought the whole thing.
You were ready.
I was like, meh. Yeah. And I just sold that stuff now for like pennies on the dollar. Yeah. Basically just gave it away.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes. Yeah. I had opened up a big gym in Irvine and all brand new stuff, and you got nowhere to, put it, you got to sell it, and then people lowball you, and it's like you get what you get.
What are you gonna get? All right.
So then the transition comes. As any good coach, I'm sure there were a lot of people wanting you to come, teach at their academy.
I was blessed about that one. Yeah.
I know I followed you over the years, and I see you like he's coaching there. I'm
all over.
You could probably have gone several different places. Where did you end up?
Several different places. Several different places. There's one here in Huntington, two now. But Coach Kelly, I was teaching for him the boxing program. That worked out okay. I was up in man. I was. It was crazy. I was everywhere. I don't know how that worked out.
Yeah. Well, when you've been around as long as you have, you can kind of.
It was so good. My phone kept ringing. I was like, thank God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got a wealth of knowledge in the sport, brother.
I got you.
You know, and I'm sure people like you, bro, have so much to offer. Not just in MMA, but a lot more than that. And that's kind of what I want to start transitioning to, because I see on your social media stuff, you know, you're a believer, and I see you a lot in Mexico and stuff. I haven't looked too far into it. Tell us kind of like what you're up to these days, bro. Like, what's going on with Todd Medina these days?
Thank you.
This is more like, I wanted to make sure we went through your history, because, you know, a lot of people might not know like how you came up and became the coach that you are, and how you got into fighting. We got that. Now, what is Todd Medina up to these days? What is the goals and life purpose now?
It's all, I'm 100% ministry, sold out for Jesus. My day starts with him and ends with him. Like I can't believe how radically he changed my life. So from growing up here in Santa Ana, like the rough spots, moving, all this and all that, like if you have a calling on your life, you'll notice like you have more distractions, more things that the enemy's trying to take you out, like literally. Sometimes could be figuratively, sometimes could be literally. But the devil's been trying to get rid of me forever.
That makes two of us.
You know, like it's no joke. Like from how, I would say this as respectful as I can, how you changed your life around. You've done a 180, and look how much your life is getting better.
Absolutely.
Like the enemy will give you pushback because he knows what your destiny is going to look like.
Absolutely.
So, and that's like from a kid, like all that violence and stuff. I was still in the middle of shootouts and all sorts of crazy stuff as a kid. And I didn't have a gun, but just the stories, like I should have been dead a bunch of times and all this and that and put away. But I got called to a prophet down in San Diego a couple, 3-4 years ago. Really didn't know anybody at the church. I didn't know the prophet. And he pulls me up and just reads my mail. Boom, boom, boom. Starts telling me about my life and this and that. And I'm like, what the heck? And on the way up there, for some reason, I've had every injury you could have, but I couldn't use my arm. This is like spiritual now, but I didn't know anything about it. Like I couldn't put gas in my car. I couldn't drive. I'm like, what the heck? So I was going to go to the emergency room. I'm like, well, I'll just go see this guy and then go to the emergency room after that. And then that's why he called me up. It's like, hey, you can't use your arm. Come up. I'm like, what, bro?
Wow.
So again, starts reading my mail. And he gives me 3 dates that things are going to happen. A lot of times people that are prophets or just giving you a good word, they'll be like, for example, like, hey, you're going to do really well in business as you get older. Okay, well, that's cool. But like, you know, then you got somebody that's like, okay, you're going to open up, you know, a car dealership in the month of May in 2 years, and you're going to make $3 million that year. Like what? And it happens as they say, bang, bang, bang. And that's what happened. He pulled me up, gave me 3 dates, 2 of them, which came out how he said. I'm like, what? So I have 1 more to do. But with that said, with the first night I went there, he just lit me up with the Holy Spirit, and bang, I was on the road. So I do a lot of outreach for the homeless here, Santa Ana, San Diego, up in LA. But my main ministry is in Mexico. The Lord opened it up to, like, I feed, or through this ministry, I don't want to make it like it's all Holy Spirit, the Lord through me. I'm a knucklehead. I don't, you know, he just gives me the opportunity. I'm obedient and I do what he says to do. Feed little kids, whether it's orphanages or refugee camps, battered women's homes in Mexico, bring them food, clothes, diapers, medicine. I mean, it's boots on the ground. I got to deal with corrupt cops, like the bad guys down there, like all the stuff. I just got jumped by 2 Mexicans maybe a month ago. I've been hitting my truck. Somebody hit me going over 100 miles an hour. We were doing anti-sex trafficking. Just I got story after story after story. But like that's my ministry is Mexico. Like I'm responsible for like thousands of meals every month.
Wow.
Every month. That truck I pulled up in right now, the one prior I bought brand new, and like 3 weeks after I got it, somebody hit me going over 100 miles an hour and destroyed the truck.
Damn.
So then a pastor, John Ramirez, did a fundraiser, and the people from the church, the believers, the people that believe in this ministry, ended up buying that truck for me.
Wow.
I was like, right on.
Amazing.
And I just take food down there like it's my job. Like I'm always in Mexico feeding these little suckers.
Amazing.
And
You're doing God's work, bro.
Amen. Like I'm not saying, I pat myself on the back, but yeah, the Lord opened up that door.
Listen, it's not patting yourself on the back. I'm not a particular religion. My grandfather's name is Qudratullah, in which that means the strength of God. And my grandpa, before he passed, he had read the Quran and the Bible, I think, over 50 times each. He wrote his own book called Unity of Believers. And my grandpa always taught me that there was, like, as he was getting ready to pass, he taught me that you have to have your own relationship with God. And when you have your own relationship with God, religion divides people. God wants everyone together. And, you know, taking that from my grandpa, I never felt comfortable going into a church, but I have my own church with God all the time. And when I really I had a friend tell me one day, he said, Legacy, you know, God wants to hear from you. You know, when you forget about him, when things are good, he still wants to hear from you. Why you only reach out to him when things are bad? Because if you think about it, a lot of us, and I know a lot of you are guilty. I know a lot of my friends that have been in and out of prison. When they're in there, they're the most godly people you can imagine, praying every day and talk to God every day. The moment they get out, they forget about it. Yeah. God doesn't want you to forget. You have to have your own in my opinion, you have to have your own personal relationship with God, and God is love and peace and helping people. And so when I say you're doing God's work, that is God's work. And it takes people like you and hopefully someone like me as well,
for real,
to do God's work, because he blesses people to bless people. I always say this: it's a blessing to be a blessing.
Amen.
So rather than just receiving blessings, our goal, I believe, when you say it the way you say it, is our goal is to be a blessing, not to receive a blessing. And that in its own is the most powerful thing, because we as people, we need to help each other. So when you say that, you know, it's just, you know, it's no big deal. It's amazing, brother. And that's one of the main reasons I wanted to have you here today, is because, you know, you've had a fight career. You've been there. You've done that. You're an amazing coach. People know, everybody in the game knows you. You're OG, you're well respected. But what is the most important thing out of all this is what you're doing now.
Amen.
You know, so I believe full circle, you know, what you're doing now is more important than, you know, your fight career, you know, and all that. You know, professions are cool, but helping people is better. The reward is not needed either. And when you do it without seeking reward, it's the most rewarding. Am I right?
That was fire right there.
Am I right? Just like I realized when I was young, Todd, I realized I saved this one kid that was drowning in the pool. And everybody kept patting me on the back and like, oh, you know, you saved his life and da-da-da-da. I felt like a hero that day. And what was it ultimately that made me feel like that? It was helping somebody.
Yes, sir.
And saving somebody. So what we get to do in martial arts, because not only are you doing that through your ministry, but you're also doing that through martial arts. Martial arts helps people. Martial arts saved my life.
Amen. I'm with you. I'm with you.
So yeah, brother. That's the goal now. You know, like, is to give back and to love and to be there for people and to help people. You know, and you know, God will hopefully forgive us for our mistakes that we've made. Yeah. You know, and we will try to do the best that we can. So that's what Todd Medina's up to these days.
I'm up to. And if I could touch on something which you said was,
please,
which is everything we said is fact, but it's not religion, it's relationship. Like religion jacks the whole thing up. Have a relationship with the Lord, and that's, you'll see, he'll move. Like, it's the Pepsi challenge. Try because in the fight community, a lot of these guys, it's not natural for somebody to look at the UFC in a cage and be like, not only do I want to do that, I'm going to do that. You've got to have some stuff going on in your life to get in the cage and like get after it. So, and I deal with all these young men and women, but young men with these anger issues. Okay. So like just start praying to the Lord, talk to him like he's your best friend, he's your dad, because he is. And the Pepsi challenge, give him 30 days and watch what the Lord does in how radical he changes your life. Because I know there's somebody, at least one person right now, this is no accident right now, that how radical he's going to change your life. And he will. Like, you're down and out right now, whether it's drugs, drinking, girlfriend, you lost all your money, whatever it is. I don't care what it is. He can undo any tangle you have. Guaranteed. If you need help with this, get a hold of me on IG or whatever, TikTok, I don't care. Because he's going to radically change your life for the better, and you'll never imagine you could have gotten out of the pit you're in right now. Because Lord, I've been at the bottom before, at the bottom. And this podcast has been so like serious with me. Like, I've been able to, through the Lord, raise somebody from the dead, cure incurable cancer 3 times, broken bones, deaf eyes or deaf ears can hear, blind eyes can see, all this stuff through prayer and touching people. But I had such a piece on my heart about this, that this podcast is going to touch so many people, because it's not only for like the combat community, combat sports community, but this is going to go into the Christian, for lack of a better word, the religious, community as well. And this is going to touch somebody. So I'm a big thing on this too. And this is my top 2 people that hit me up on social media. Men, fathers, boyfriends, whatever, hit me up. They're like, hey, I don't know how to fight or defend myself, and my wife or my girlfriend think because I'm a guy, I got this. And they don't even know how to throw a baseball. I'm like, bro. So the people that are believers, find a martial arts school to check yourself into, go Brazilian jiu-jitsu, boxing. I don't know what you got around you on that part. Okay. So don't be worried about it. Just go check yourself in. And then fighters, I get this is another one. Fighters, they think they're like too macho or whatever the word is I'm looking for to go to church. They think it's going to make you soft to go to church. Like, I'm in church or worship or Bible study or something 7 days a week. Like, I'm in there, like, and pretty much everybody knows chemo. Like, there's a lot of serious people, serious men, that go to church. So don't sweat that. So this is working on both sides of the coin. But I know this. Holy Spirit told me this. The Lord told me this, that this podcast is going to reach more people than it normally does in different genres, different groups of people. Just watch what this podcast right now does and the doors it opens.
I hope so. Like that's the whole goal, is to inspire, to motivate, and to help. And if we can do that for the rest of life, we're truly blessed, brother. Amazing story. I'm forever a friend. I'm forever a fan. I'm very thankful to have another amazing legend of the sport, not just sport, in life out here. Like, just more than the sport, like we talked about, out there really, really helping people. Guys, Todd, floor is yours. Thank you for today. I want to have you back for sure. If there's anything you want to touch on that we didn't touch on, please also shout out your social media where people can connect with you and keep in touch with you if they need to. I know you still coach, so if somebody's looking for some training or how they can get a hold of you, the floor is yours, my brother. Let the people know.
Thank you, Legacy. This was almost before we started talking. I was at, I don't even know, somewhere in the mix, but I was at OTM, and they were doing the patches for you or whatever.
Oh yeah, shout out OTM. Love you guys. Yeah, shout out to Ryan and the OG Scott Nelson and the OTM family. Love those guys.
All those guys. Yeah. But if you could have seen.
What up, everybody? Want to take a quick second out of the podcast just to give a shout out to our sponsor, the best criminal defense attorney I know. The last time I got in trouble, I needed somebody that was going to look into my case and actually fight for me and get me the best deal possible, and he did that. And I'll make sure that he does that for you. Make sure you shout me out if you guys reach out to him. They're the sponsor of the Convo. You know anybody, a family member or yourself that make a mistake, you want somebody like him on your side. Arash, please let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Thank you. Arash Hashemi, 310-448-1529 or hashemilaw.com, HASHEMILAW.com, or just Google hashtag Better Call Hash. Remember that, Better Call Hash. You'll find me on every social media channel all over the internet. 310-448-1529.
You better call Hash.
I mean, this is in a positive way. Where Legacy came from with his music back to like full circle where he's at right now. This is such a cool to me, this is a God story. Like this is a mighty man of faith right here. And like get behind this man. I got to say, he's like you say, he's a supporter. He just lifts people up, and I want to thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
On another note, as far as training, I'm blessed to say that I'm almost a little bit too busy, but if you're serious about it, like please reach out to me, Instagram, Todd Medina, MMA, or TikTok, The Fight Coach. But more importantly, my whole thing is ministry, leading people. Like if you need help, and I have a ton of plugs for drug rehab as well here in Mexico and here in the States. So we got the drug rehab. We've got, if you're homeless here in the States or in Mexico, I got big plugs on that. If you're having problems with your chick or whatever, hit me up. Drugs, training, like I'm full-time ministry right now, and it's I don't understand how I've got so many plates spinning and they're still going, but the Lord has my back. But if there's something that you need help with, like I am serious about this, please feel free to reach out because I'm all about it. Like the Lord didn't give me all these gifts and everything. He's been plugging me, just really helping me out with, not to use them. So like I love people, I want to help. So like this is for real. This will reach somebody that if you need something, or if you need help, or if you need an ear to talk to, or whatever. I don't even know what that looks like. If you have a problem with drugs, feel free to hit me up. And you know what? Can I get my phone number?
Absolutely.
Like I did this once on TikTok, and I got at the time I think
we'll even put it in the description as well. Yeah, go ahead,
okay,
say it out loud, and we'll put it in the description.
Okay,
and all the details. Of course, go ahead.
Okay, it's 949-759-2464. Yeah, like I said, I did this once on TikTok, and I think at the time I had like 400,000. My phone just blew up for a month. But like I helped a lot of people, so it was cool. But that was the thing. Like this podcast, Legacy. This is huge, and it's going to become bigger. You watch. Give this 6 months, a year with this podcast, and everything else Legacy's got going, and it's going to be wow. You really blew up quick.
God willing, and, okay. and if it does happen, I got someone to thank.
Yeah, for real, and it will. And I believe.
And the good thing about all that is, I know like if God does bless me, that is for a reason, and I need to be the one to give the blessings back and help.
So please, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Absolutely.
Please don't say if. Say when.
When. You're right. Absolutely.
Like, I'm not even messing around with this.
No, it's happening.
Yeah.
Brother, thank you.
I appreciate you.
You're amazing.
Blessings.
Todd Medina MMA on Instagram. Guys, go follow a legend. Support. If you got to listen, the most important thing out of today, the fighting, amazing. Martial arts, amazing. What's more important? Life. Life is more important. If you got somebody struggling, if you guys, know somebody that struggles with alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, they need somebody to talk to, need a big brother. We're here. Todd Medina's here. Reach out to him. Reach out to me. You guys all know I'm very accessible, and I always will be. I will always help my people. Much love, respect to the MMA community, to all of Todd Medina's friends and family. Shout out. All the people that we mentioned on the show, thank you. All the people supporting. Love. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Todd Medina, thank you, brother.
Legacy, thank you.